10th grade scholars. I miss you guys so much. It's been a while. I have not seen you. I haven't heard from some of y'all in a month of Sundays. It's been a whole month. I haven't even heard from you. Where you at? You being great? I hope so. I miss you guys. I really do hope that you and your families are all doing well in the midst of this uncertain crisis that we are going through right now. Just please make sure that you guys are reaching out if you need additional support, whether it is academic, if you need help in Microsoft Teams with the learning from home package, or you just need any type of support throughout this very difficult time. Just a few announcements and important information. Please know that the end of the quarter is next Friday. Can you believe it? Term 3 ends next Friday, April the 24th. You don't have school because what will we be doing? We'll be putting in grades. So I am asking that all assignments that you need to submit, whether it be an assignment that you still need to turn in prior to COVID-19 break, or whether it be these amazing learn from home packets that you get those things to me by 11:59 p.m. next Thursday, April the 23rd, so that on Friday I can put grades in. Very good. So at this point, you have picked up the week 3 packet from Dunbar High School today and or yesterday. And so what we are looking at, and it is also uploaded under files on Microsoft Teams for anyone who needs the digital version. So if you look at what it says at the top of the page, it says, in this unit, you will read Divergent Perspectives on Engagement in the Vietnam War. One from a man who served, draft story number 324, Obligation to Fulfill, and the other from a man who refused. I picked prison over fighting in Vietnam. That sounds good. You will compare the perspectives of each and provide specific evidence to support your comparison. So you're going to read 2 different texts with 2 very different perspectives, okay? And you're going to compare those perspectives. Now, how are you going to compare those perspectives, you ask? If you look to the right, it says culminating question, our favorites. That means essay. You have just read 2 texts on the draft during the Vietnam War. Draft story number 24, Obligation to Fulfill, and I picked prison over fighting in Vietnam. Write an essay that compares and contrasts the perspectives of the authors on the draft. Your essay should describe the perspective of each author using evidence from the text and analyze how they differ. So how they're different, 2 different perspectives. They already tell you that you're looking for something different. So we all know the culminating question, aka the essay, comes at the end of the process. So this is preparing you for what you're going to do at the end of the process. So the first thing I want to say today and tomorrow, or at this point, you should definitely have started the Learning from Home packet. And so my ask is that before Friday, you have completed pages 3 through 15. Pages 3 through 15 will consist of vocabulary. It will consist of both texts. It will also consist of you writing an objective summary, our favorite, and you will be answering some text-dependent questions. So I also know that for some of us it's a lot, so I am asking for you to put forth your best effort to do the best that you can. And on Friday, we will meet on Microsoft Teams at 9 a.m. To discuss the text, to discuss the text-dependent questions, and to just review and go over this information. So if you go to page 3, the first thing it asks you to do, this is where we get into the vocabulary. And if you look here, this is page 3. The pages are numbered. The pages are numbered at the bottom, so they're at the bottom, but this is page 3. Just a little vocabulary deliciousness, and so it is a do now, and so it's very self-explanatory. There are 5 key vocabulary words that you'll be using throughout the close reading module. Read each word aloud and indicate how familiar you are with each word. If you know what the word means, jot it in the open space. So we have obligation, we have deferment. Shout out to deferment. That's a good term to know about student loans. Okay. Indicted and escalating in conscription. I do not want to be. Okay. So if you go to page 4, you have the vocabulary Frayer model. And so this is your first vocabulary word that you will have to complete the Frayer model. And the Frayer model asks you to identify the definition, the traits and characteristics, the sentence, and the real world examples for that particular word. So again, obligation is our first word. So I did an example. So what is the definition of obligation? It is an act or course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, or it is a duty or commitment. So the next box, what traits and characteristics are associated with obligation? Accountability, responsibility, dependability, and self-discipline. If you are an obligation or someone who has an obligation, these are some of the characteristics and traits that are associated with that. Okay, so now I have to use it in a sentence. The most important obligation I have is to be a loving mother that cultivates a productive member of society. Then the last box asks you to provide real world examples. So my real world example of an obligation, of course, there are many obligations such as meeting certain deadlines. For example, being a teacher, I am obligated to enter grades on time, as in next Friday, April the 24th. That is an obligation. I am obligated to call parents, as I did on Monday. Shout out to all 20 10th grade parents that I spoke to. I love it. Of course, our favorite, paying bills. You are obligated to do that if you would like to live somewhere. And if you are married or you have children, you are obligated to your family, and there are certain obligations, duties, and commitments that come with that. Of course, if you have promised to attend an obligation, again, it can be an act or a course of an action. That's another form of an obligation. So you're going to do that for all of your vocabulary words. We keep going. That will take us through page 6. And then when you get to page 7, you have your first text, draft story number 324. There are 4 text-dependent questions to the right that you will need to answer. Once you have read the first text and you answered the 4 questions, then you will start the next text, which is on page 8. I picked prison over fighting in Vietnam. There are definitely a bit more questions for this text. There are 15, I believe. Yes. So there are 15 questions. The second text is longer. However, because you're a 10th grade pre-AP student, you can do it. So you're going to read the second text, answer those 15 questions. Then we're going to move on to our favorite, the objective summary for both texts. And again, that is the 4 to 5 sentences where you are specifically identifying what took place in the summary. No opinions. You want to name it. In draft story 324, obligation to fulfill by the author, he states, he demonstrates, he's saying, and then you're going to fill in that information, and you'll do the same thing for I picked prison over fighting in Vietnam. And again, it should not be more than 4 or 5 sentences, because that's what makes an objective summary an objective summary. And then let me see. And I think that is, I want to skip page 14, and then we want to go to page 15. This is page 15, and this is a quick Hockman assessment, the but, because, and so. And so you are going to fill this in with information. It's delicious. So he felt a strong obligation to fulfill his duty. He felt a strong obligation to fulfill his duty, but he decided that whatever he decided. You have to read the text first to figure that part out. I was going to give y'all the answer, but I had to stop. That's why I had to get myself together. He felt a strong obligation to fulfill his duty because again, when you actually fill this in, you're going to fill it in using information from the text and not just fill in the sentence with whatever. And so that's why I stopped myself, because again, I cannot give you the answer. Y'all thought y'all had one. And you would do the same thing for I picked prison over fighting in Vietnam. And so if you read the text, once you read the text and you understand the text and you've already went through an objective summary and answering the questions, you will be familiar enough with the text to easily fill in these amazing sentences. And then that is where we're going to stop in terms of what you should have completed prior to Friday, this Friday, the 17th. Again, we will meet on Teams at 9 o'clock a.m. for anyone who wants to discuss the go through the text. Not anybody who wants to. That's what we're doing. Everybody wants to. We are meeting at 9 o'clock on Microsoft Teams. We are going over the text. We are going over the questions. We're going to go over the objective summary and the Hockman exercise right here. And then the last thing we're going to do on Friday is start working on our outline for the culminating essay. So it does ask you to create an evidence collection chart, and there is a multiple paragraph outline, and then you get to the actual culminating writing task, which I read to you in the beginning. Again, try not to stress, because pages 17 through 24, which is the remainder of the packet, that is what we're going to cover on Friday after we go through the first half of the packet. So we'll spend the first 30 minutes reviewing the information, going through the information, and then we'll spend the second 30 minutes of the hour working on the essay part. And again, taking any questions, comments, or concerns.